I'd want to thank you and also for bringing persons with disability on the table, because anytime we are not on the table, then we cannot be included, and we don't know you might not know our needs. For persons with disability, and especially women with disability, nominating them for the MCAs, Senate, and the MP position. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mariam. And I think for the wonderful presentation you have made, I will ask the Kenya Kwanza Secretary Generals to find a place for the nomination of Mariam, so that she can prosecute matters to do with women and people living with disability in one of our assemblies.
Wamama hoye, wamama mko. Your Excellency, we have a very special group of women in this country who are very often left aside. Our next speaker is actually deaf, but she's very active in these spaces, and she has a very powerful story that will highlight the issues in terms of healthcare around people with disability, and particularly women with disability. Karibu, Miriam. Welcome.
I want to see her from there. Which one? Your Excellency, the Deputy President, William Samoei Ruto, members of the Kenya Kwanza Coalition, and all the leaders that I have seen here, and all the invited guests, people living with disability, how are you? Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Miriam. I am a deaf woman, and I communicate using sign language, the third national language in Kenya. And I can hear with my eyes and use my hands to speak. First of all, I want to say thank you for granting me this opportunity and giving persons with disability an opportunity. I want to say a huge thank you. Thank you so much, Your Excellency, for your assistance and the things that you have provided to the persons with disabilities. And also for the assistance that you gave us, the waiver, when we were during the nomination for the people who are vying. We appreciate that. We didn't pay anything for all of us. And now that became the first coalition to become accessible to persons with disability and those who are vying in Parliament, under MCA positions, and also the Senate. There are people who vied. There are many, but we appreciate that offer. Thank you so much. We all know that today in the World Health Organization statistics, they say 15% of all people are disabled. So the statistics that we have right now, they say in Kenya, we have from the 47 million people that we see here, we only have 7 million persons with disability and who are also voters. So it's a big number for your votes. Women living with disabilities are more. But now we have some little problem. When we did the census in 2019, persons with disability were ranked lower. They were less than 1 million. So my worry was, did the persons with disability die, or these people with disability, people stopped giving birth to persons with disability? How do we even reduce to that? But I think the statistics were wrong. From all that we know, I would want to talk about the issue about concerning persons with disability, and specifically focusing on the health education and the poverty eradication for persons with disability. On the issue about health, it's true, I would want to say that the health system is not good and accessible for persons with disability. I'd request you as the 5th president of Kenya, when you take over the office, kindly just assure persons with disability they'll have the access to health facilities, health services, because especially the area on sexual reproductive health, that's where the issue is. Persons with disability, anytime they go to the hospital, they are stuck. Maybe a woman is pregnant, they are on a wheelchair. So when they come to the hospital, maybe the nurse ignore them. Sometimes they don't even care for them. We have always been lost, especially on issues with disability. So many women have died because of lack of this accessibility. On this issue about health and also communication accessibility, you imagine a person who is deaf goes in hospital, the doctor doesn't understand sign language, and the nurse does not understand sign language, and the deaf person is there. They cannot write. How will they communicate? How will they communicate? So I'll just give you an example of my story. A few years ago, I was married. I became pregnant. I went to a hospital. So I just went, and when I came there, I'm just a normal person. When you see me, you'll see like I'm a normal person. So the person looked at me, and when I went to the doctor, we started interacting with like, hiya, a deaf person, you are pregnant. Oh Jesus, what happened? Which devil did this to you? I was scared. Did a devil make you pregnant? So I was like so scared. A devil, where from? I married so that I became a devil. Does that mean that I married a devil? But it's because people thought that we cannot get married. The communication challenge is a big issue. Another time, my colleague, who we worked together with, 2 years ago, they went to the hospital. The same way, they had a challenge. When we went there, she had a UTI. She had an issue with her reproductive health system. So when we went to the hospital, the doctor misdiagnosed them because of the communication. So when they went and they were trying to, when they were told to go and take that medication, it was wrong. In the afternoon they took, and then they have been taking the medicine in the wrong way because communication was done in the wrong way. So when they went back, they were told they had a problem with UTI. So when we went back to the hospital with an interpreter, we found out the issue was a different thing, and they had been given the wrong medication. So you see, that can cause a real challenge to persons who are deaf and also persons with disability. On health, for the health workers, I'd propose, maybe they are being trained on how to be accessible to persons with disability. Also, on issues with disability, most people don't have money. They are very poor. Because you see how the NHIF, for example, doesn't care about persons with disabilities' health. So anytime you go, for example, right now, me, a deaf person or a person who is visually impaired, when they go and ask for the services, they're deaf. So the way the disability card is made does not help anything. It's not cheap. Because anytime like I go for assessment, I'm required to have 10,000. Like a child of mine who is there to get a disability card, to go to school, you must go for assessment. Very expensive. You have to pay for that assessment. So maybe you can make it inclusive for NHIF and for the assessment anytime we go for those assessments. And also for therapy, for the wheelchair, there's assistive devices. Maybe make them as accessible for us. I'll go back to the issue of poverty. Let me tell you, it's true. All of us, we are hustlers here. Persons with disabilities are here. They are mama mbogas. We have people who have been selling mitumbas. You know, all of us, we have been doing those businesses. We are hustlers, even as persons with disability. We heard recently what happened. One person said that mitumba are clothes for the dead people. But how? You know, that is what we use ourselves. Because mitumbas are clothes that feed families. We work there as family. That's how we get our fees. That's how we get we earn our living. So if we eradicate the mitumba business, who is going to take up the burden that we have been having? So it is important for us to watch on that, not to just help us eradicate poverty for persons with disability. How do we do that? Empowering them. I have been seeing you that you have been empowering persons with disability. There's clothes that they sell. That will help also eradicate the poverty levels for persons with disability. Maybe giving them the tools of trade. The tools of trade will help us a lot to be self-dependent. Like we can start our own businesses, like for salons, giving us the dryers, the shaving machines. That one we can be able to do. Those are the tools of trades that we want you to give us. So right now, with the high cost of living again, most of us here, because we had been having breakfast in the morning, lunch, and also supper. But maybe some of us have not had that breakfast because of the expensive life that you have right now. Or women here, have you all had you haven't been having that challenges? So now I'd want to ask you, Your Excellency, when you take over the office, do something about the cost of food because it is affecting persons with disability. As you're not getting enough food, it's a big challenge for us. The food security issue will need to be that, lowering the cost of living. All the women agree with me, and also persons with disability, to be specific in this. The other one I'll talk about, education. The previous time, that's my final point. Recently, there was that the education tool and the parents are left with the children. So I'd want to request you, maybe focusing on education for persons with disability and for children with disability, because that situation is not good. Every year we celebrate KCSE, KCPE, but have you ever seen persons with disability being celebrated? What have they done? Have they performed? They have teachers in school who do not understand their mode of communication. A child who is there, they go to teach the teachers how to sign. So I'd want to request you, just for the next government, when you pass, there's the KSL bill that is ongoing in Parliament. Maybe it can be placed as a law so that we can be assisted. For the Kenya Sign Language bill to be approved in Parliament and open all opportunities and accessibility for persons with disability and those who are deaf and other persons with disabilities. And then the final most, Your Excellency, they say that you are a thief. I don't know how. You have not denied that. I don't know. I don't know whether you have all stolen our hearts. That's the reason why they call you a thief. We are here because you have stolen our hearts. And I'm a proud person to say that you have stolen my heart and the heart for the women of Kenya. Continue with the good work. Continue stealing more hearts for women in Kenya to make it accessible. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mariam. Yeah, thank you very much for your presentation. I just want to tell you, Mariam, I know you have spoken to many issues to do with people living with disability. I want to tell you that we are working with the leadership of people living with disability. We are actually going to have a separate people living with disability charter as Kenya Kwanza, so that we can work on all the issues you have raised on matters to do with education of people living with disability, access to buildings, access to government services, NHIF, and many of those other things. But specifically, the issues you have said that relate to women, I want to tell you that majority of the people in this space, or matters to do specifically with women, we have said that NHIF, which we are going to transform to Hustler Healthcare. So Hustler Healthcare is going to ensure that, number one, community health workers or community health volunteers who today are doing a lot of work around women in vulnerable spaces, around women who need support. we are going to make sure as Kenya Kwanza government, we are going to enter into a co-sharing agreement with every county so that we pay half the stipend for community health volunteers and the counties pay half the stipend so that we can meaningfully benefit from the personnel in the community health space that are already trained and that will support people living with disability as they support women especially. We have also said that of course the entire NHIF program that is currently available to people living with disability, women, orphans, and sometimes there is delay, especially in giving out stipends under the NHIF program. We want to tell the women beneficiaries in this room of the cash transfer program that the Kenya Kwanza administration will change policy so that all stipends paid to people living with disability, to people, to orphans, to the old, the aged in our society, stipends owed to these people will be paid before salaries of public servants is paid. At the moment, sometimes it takes up to 4 or 5 months before people on cash transfer receive their stipends. We will make sure that it is paid for every month upfront before salaries of public servants is paid. And finally, we will make assessment for people living with disability free. You will not need any money to be assessed so that you can qualify as a person living with disability. The rest of the issues, Mariam, we will capture when we have a conversation on the chat.
Iwapo unapenda habari nazokuletea, basi subscribe kwenye channel hii ili uwe unapata uhondo kila wakati. Shukran.
And also for bringing persons with disability on the table, because anytime we are not on the table, then we cannot be included, and we don't know what will you might not know our needs for persons with disability, and especially women with disability, nominating them for the MCAs, Senate, and the MP position. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mariam. And I think for the wonderful presentation you have made, I will ask the Kenya Kwanza Secretary Generals to find a place for the nomination of Mariam, so that she can prosecute matters to do with women and people living with disability in one of our assemblies.